You really think you can bring this dump back to life?
No, I think I'm about to turn it into a gold mine.
At 6:40 on a cold, gray Tuesday morning, 3 HOA board members were standing behind their polished fence, staring at the one building they had laughed at for months. The abandoned brick factory behind their perfect little subdivision. The place they called worthless. The place they said should be demolished. The place they thought would never breathe again. And the gates opened. First came the diesel rumble. Then 2 service trucks. A flatbed stacked with steel. A mobile welder. A forklift carrying a massive engine stand through the side entrance. Before sunrise, new signs were mounted. Safety lines were painted. Bright white bay lights cut through the dark like the building had come back from the dead overnight. And when the HOA president stepped out of her SUV with a folder in her hand, ready to shut me down, she froze. Because hanging on that front gate were Valley County permits. And standing next to me was a licensed contractor unlocking the main shop doors. That was the moment they realized something that hit them like a punch to the throat. I had not bought a problem. I had bought leverage. I had bought access. I had bought industrial ground they could not control. If you were standing there watching that moment happen, what would you have done next? Drop it in the comments. And tell me what state you were watching from. My name is Cole Mercer, and I did not buy that factory by accident. I bought it because I had spent 12 years building diesel fleets for other people, fixing their trucks in the middle of storms, keeping their businesses alive while they made fortunes off machines they barely understood. After enough midnight breakdowns and enough dirty jobs that made other men rich, I stopped wanting a raise. I wanted my own base. That factory sat behind one of those manicured HOA neighborhoods where every lawn looked fake, every mailbox matched, and every board member acted like the world ended at their property line. Most people saw a dead building. I saw reinforced concrete, oversized bay access, industrial power history, truck turnaround room, and one beautiful advantage. It sat outside their reach. The building had been empty for almost 9 years. Before that, it had housed machine parts work, then farm equipment rebuilding, then nothing. Sure, the roof needed repair. The windows were shot. The docks were rusted. But the bones were still there. And in my business, bones matter more than paint. The best part was this: nobody serious wanted it. Developers thought it was ugly. Retail buyers thought it was too far off the highway. And the HOA crowd assumed whoever bought it would either tear it down or leave it rotting forever. I did neither, because county records showed something almost nobody had bothered to check. The parcel still had industrial history, utility access, and legal entry routes the subdivision could not block just because they hated noise, steel, or diesel smoke. The day I signed closing papers, I already knew I was not buying an abandoned headache. I was buying a future they were going to hate. 3 days after closing, the HOA introduced themselves. Not like neighbors, like supervisors. Their president was Elaine Porter. Perfect jacket, polished voice, practiced smile. The kind of woman who only smiled when she thought paperwork was about to scare somebody. She met me at the gate and asked if I planned to improve the visual situation before starting any real work. That phrase told me everything. She was not asking what I planned to build. She was testing how easily I could be pushed. So I kept it simple. I told her the property was legally purchased. The structure was being secured, and any future use would follow county rules, not neighborhood feelings. Her smile tightened. Then she warned me not to invest too much money into something that might become difficult to operate. That was their first move, not a direct threat. Just the kind of vague pressure people use when they think fear will do the heavy lifting for them. Have you ever dealt with people like that in your area? The kind who act powerful just because nobody pushes back. Tell me in the comments. I want to know how it works where you live. Over the next few weeks, the letters started coming. One said I was creating a future nuisance. Another claimed truck traffic would hurt property values. Another questioned my right to use the old service road that had existed longer than half their subdivision. Every letter sounded polished, official, smug, and completely toothless. I did not argue. I built a file. Every letter went into a binder. Every conversation got logged. Every photo got saved. Every little stunt they pulled became evidence. When somebody blocked the service road with cones, I photographed it and reported it. When a board member stood at the fence taking pictures, I saved the security footage. When Elaine cornered me and said the neighborhood would never tolerate an industrial eyesore coming back to life, I wrote it down before I even started my truck. And then they made the mistake that changed everything. They started calling the county. Elaine filed noise complaints before there was noise. She raised fuel concerns before I had installed a single tank. She pushed zoning, hoping the site would be treated like a brand new commercial application. But it was not a brand new site. It was an old industrial property with a legal history still attached to it. Every complaint she made created a paper trail, and every county response pushed the truth further in my favor. Then came the turning point. Inside the county records office, a clerk handed me a packet thick enough to end the whole illusion. Buried in that file were old permits, used maps, access records, and utility notes proving the factory had never truly lost its industrial standing. It had gone inactive, not extinct. That single distinction changed the game. The service road was protected. The utility demand was already there. The operating profile still allowed mechanical and equipment work so long as I stayed within code and completed safety upgrades. In other words, the HOA could complain all day, but they could not shut me down. And the second I knew that for sure, I stopped renovating. I started opening. If you're still with me right here, hit like and subscribe because this is the part where their confidence started falling apart in real time. Within days, the building stopped looking abandoned. We cleared the office wing, tore out rotten shelving, patched the concrete, installed bright LED bay lights, set heavy truck lifts in place, ran compressed air lines, built a fabrication corner, marked equipment lanes outside, and mounted a legal signboard in plain view from the fence. No misteri, no weakness, no shortcuts. I wanted them to see exactly what the county saw. Compliance, investment, momentum. That is when the panic really started. The lane drove by twice in one day, then 3 times the next. One board member pretended to be on the phone while watching a rollback unload a disabled fleet truck. Another photographed my business sign like the letters themselves were illegal. But every inspection passed. Fire cleared. Electrical cleared. Access stayed open. And then came the sound. Impact guns. Air tools. Diesel idle. Steel on steel. Not chaos. Work. Real work. The kind of sound that tells everybody nearby something permanent is happening. So let me ask you this. Does your neighborhood have crazy HOA rules too? Or are people where you live more normal about property rights? Comment your city or country. I read more. I read more comments than you think. Elaine made her last move on a Monday morning. A courier handed me a cease and desist packet claiming my operation threatened residential peace and should be halted immediately. The language looked expensive. The timing looked planned. And by noon, the HOA had already spread word around the neighborhood that county officials were finally stepping in. They wanted people to believe my garage was finished before it had really begun. 2 days later, I walked into the review meeting carrying inspection sign-offs, parcel maps, easement records, utility confirmations, contractor files, and the old industrial documents Elaine had spent a month helping strengthen with her own complaints. She showed up with a board attorney and that same expression people wear right before facts ruin their whole day. Then the county planner started talking. Access valid. Use history protected. Safety upgrades complete. Traffic concerns speculative. Noise complaints unsupported. Service road easement recorded and enforceable. One by one, every argument collapsed. Elaine tried one last angle and said my garage was incompatible with the character of the surrounding community. The planner answered with one sentence that ended the fight. Community preference is not legal authority over a separately governed parcel. That was it. No big speech. No dramatic shouting. Just silence. The emergency request was denied. The cease and desist had no teeth. And the board that tried to bury my project had to sit there and watch the county confirm, on record, that I was fully allowed to operate. 3 months later, that abandoned factory was no longer dead space behind an HOA fence. It was profitable. Diesel pickups lined the lot before sunrise. Fleet accounts sent in work every week. Owner-operators came for diagnostics, brakes, injectors, wiring, rebuilds, all of it. The bay stayed full. The lights stayed on. The doors kept opening. And on the other side of that fence sat the same people who once called it an eyesore, a mistake, and a threat. Now all they could do was listen to the steady rhythm of a business they could not block, could not vote against, and could not shame out of existence. I did not buy that factory to prove a point. I bought it to build something solid. The point made itself. And every time another diesel truck rolls through those gates, the neighborhood behind me gets reminded of one simple truth. I was never the one trapped by that fence. If you want more stories where control freaks get humbled by facts, drop a comment saying Factory 1. And subscribe so you do not miss the next one.